good afternoon, and a very warm welcome from Beaconhouse College Campus, Johar Town, Lahore, Pakistan, to World Education Week 2021. My name is SN Ali, and I'm the moderator for today's webinar. Our theme is COVID-19 Pandemic, Our Story of Resilience. Before we get into our story, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Join Time Magazine's lead education reporter alongside global educators and advocates to explore the impacts of teaching forgiveness.
I teach forgiveness because it can have a positive impact in my students' families.
It helps my students thrive in the face of adversity.
Students who can forgive are happier.
Join us to hear from teachers and thought leaders on how and why to include forgiveness in your classroom.
Temperature rise will bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
New coronavirus cases emerge across the country.
Obesity rates have more than doubled in kids.
Cape Town is running out of water.
Good morning, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome from Beaconhouse College Program, Johar Town campus, Lahore, Pakistan, to World Education Week 2021. My name is SNLE, and I'm the Career Advisor at BCP, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. We are incredibly thrilled to be part of one of the 100 schools showcased globally for this very important week, which is bringing educators, practitioners, teachers, students, and parents together to discuss the best practices. Our theme, that is overcoming adversity and building resilience, is extremely close to our hearts. The past year and a half brought many challenges and setbacks for schools around the world. We believe it also brought many opportunities for schools to improve on their systems and work on novel technologies to get the best out of these adverse conditions. In today's webinar, we are committed to providing you with an overview followed by an in-depth discussion. Prior to proceeding further, it is pertinent to give you a brief run of how we will go about these upcoming 54 minutes. We begin with a short presentation, followed by a theatrical performance, and leading up to the panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to move towards the first part of our webinar, where our school head will take you through the school dynamics with a special focus on overcoming adversity and building resilience. Ms. Aisha Khalid, over to you.
Thank you, Essen. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aisha Khalid, and I'm the school leader at the Beaconhouse College Program, Johar Town campus. I'm equally excited to be part of this global platform. Goes without saying, this past year was turbulent for educators and learners around the world. Our situation at BCP Johar Town was no different. However, despite all the odds, we managed to produce the best ever results in Cambridge International Examination, May-June 2021, with almost 50% of our registered candidates becoming high achievers. Amazingly, we rank among top 4 A-level campuses across Beaconhouse, Pakistan, securing the highest GPA ever recorded. Also, our students backed scholarships worth 15.3 million US from top-notch universities across the globe. Again, the highest amongst Beaconhouse, Pakistan. Well, that makes me incredibly proud of my teachers and students who stood firm in the face of COVID crisis and gave us the reason to celebrate this stupendous achievement. And what can be more exciting than celebrating this success at a global level, thanks to the World Education Week team and T4. So how did we manage to do all this? Well, here's our story of resilience. March 2020, we are closed for an indefinite period of time. With all the setbacks and disappointments on our way, we marched on. Our administrators, teachers, and students learned and demonstrated resilience more profoundly than any one of us could have imagined for ourselves. Education system beyond physical boundaries, the only possible solution for learning to go on. But how long will it take us to get there? Online classes began on March 24 via Beaconhouse Schooling Uninterrupted, an online learning platform, a milestone achieved in just a week's time. The transition from physical classrooms to Google Classrooms, so swift and seamless, hats off to our teachers for making remote learning experience a great one. A few months later, as the lockdowns eased and the government allowed resumption of face-to-face classes, brought yet another challenge. Half of our students to stay home and the other half to join face-to-face. Live streaming through Google Meet helped both learners engaged in the learning process. With lack of digital resources, it was extremely challenging to pull through, but once again, we did it. Our teachers became gurus of blended learning in the process. Overwhelming emotions of fear and anxiety made it difficult for many students to cope with academic pressures. There were students who lost their loved ones and students who felt really sick and whose mental well-being was far from ideal. We planned to extend our peer support program beyond peer tutoring. Peer coaching, befriending, coping skills, self-esteem, and self-efficacy were taken care of by peers. Isolation and social disconnect was adversely affecting our learners. Our students badly needed a forum to connect, to disconnect from what was going on around. Our literary club, with the help of our public speaking coach, developed a closed Facebook group to use literature and reading material as therapy. The response was overwhelming. Books proved to be the best companions. Your career destinations are topmost consideration. The anxious and strange times left our students' futures uncertain. Our career advisors displayed extraordinary dedication and commitment to keep students engaged in the application process. Together, they explored options that matched students' aptitudes and aspirations and helped them realize their goals of dream universities. As mentioned earlier, 15.3 million US dollars worth in scholarship and admissions in top-notch universities across the globe, an incredible feat indeed. Thankfully, our students moved on in life despite all the odds. Our students took up initiatives as community participants and leaders at a time when COVID seemed to frighten us all. They planned and organized sessions on topics such as boost your immunity with healthy diet, harmful effects of increased screen time, health awareness walks, webinars on getting vaccinated, food drives, etc. Our initiative of Us Time, getting together every Wednesday, helped us stay connected as BCP-JT community. One of our students, Ayman Munir, President Literary Club, came up with a fantastic proposal. Let's thank those who fight for our survival every day at the front lines of the pandemic. They wrote letters to doctors letting them know that their valor was celebrated. The doctors felt great and touched beyond words on this kind gesture. Ayman and her team received a shield of appreciation from the in-charge COVID department at the Services Institute of Medical Research. Our passion and perseverance to achieve our goals despite difficult times kept us going. We provided holistic care to our students by not only being in touch with them beyond work hours, but practically ensuring them of our support and presence. We displayed concern and sensitivity towards their mental and academic well-being by talking to them, explaining the pros and cons of weekly updates received from Cambridge and offering solutions. Besides academics, the ever-changing educational landscape demands collaboration and research skills among learners. Keeping the sustainable developmental goals in mind, our students researched on 5 different projects related to healthcare, rights of transgender community, women's contribution to society, and climate change. Our students used online platforms to collaborate with other students across Pakistan and had a great learning experience. In a time of crisis, when physical campuses were closed down, shift to a different educational paradigm brought forward a critical question. How to keep students from the edge of disorientation? We decided to leverage technology to keep students engaged and successfully conducted numerous events and competitions while keeping the students in the lead roles. Be it an art competition, digital art or photography, Music, singing or instrumental, media and IT, entrepreneurial initiatives, fashion shows, or theatrical performances. Our students explored all genres in a virtual setting. Here's a small clip from one of our students' theatrical performances they worked out during the pandemic, The Magic of Resilience. Hope you enjoy it as much as we did. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Alishan bin Sohail. I coach drama here at BCP Johar Town. I've been teaching this institute for the past 5 years, and in these past 5 years, we've made amazing memories. We've had wonderful theatrical productions, and we've had sold out halls. So one of the challenges when COVID hit hard last year was how do we get these kids to express themselves when we're not with them? How do we give them a platform to raise their voice, to be happy, to sing, to dance, to act? We then, as a faculty, as a school, as a management, we came together with the idea of online competitions. And with an online competition, we hosted our own, and soon other schools followed suit, and they hosted their own online competitions as well. So even though we were disconnected, but we connected, and we won several awards last year through these online competitions. We came together, we recorded our plays, we made sure we kept the art going, because it is imperative, especially such stressful times, that these kids get to express themselves, be happy, laugh, and sing and shout. So we at the VCP Johar Town would like to show you a small theatrical presentation which revolves around this concept of singing, laughing, which breaks through the barriers of language and hopefully connects with each and every one of you that is watching this video. We're looking forward to entertaining you. Let's keep smiling, keep persevering, and be resilient. Thank you, guys.
The most noble act is that of making others happy. And we at Le Cercle de l'Amour live on your smiles, your applause, your happiness. This is a place where freaks are welcome, a place where those who you fear strive, a place where those who break the molds of society live. It is a place of art, a place of happiness, but most importantly, it is a place of love. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest show on earth, Le Cercle de l'Amour.
Magnetic field streaming through the endless sky, right above the ice cold river, ice cold. Leave us behind like wild animals, running like we don't know where to go. Your heartbeat floating down the river, following the stars which will tear us apart. The touch of your skin makes me shiver. I'm running even though my mind says no. 'Cause I will always love you, love you, love you, love you, love you.
But then something very unexpected happened. COVID-19 hit the world and everything shut down. Schools, markets, offices, theaters, even the circus shut down. What would our heroes do if they couldn't make people smile? What would we do if we couldn't fill the halls with laughter, with joy, and most important of all, with people? If you couldn't come to us, then we decided that we should come to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, the show must go on. It is Le Cirque de l'Amour online. Just like the show, life must also go on. No virus can take away our happiness. No virus can take away our happiness. This is the circus of life. Le Cirque de l'Amour.
We really hope you enjoyed the performance and got the idea of how students suffered during the pandemic, but showcased immaculate grit to rise again and get back on track. This leads us to our panel discussion, where we have three esteemed guests who are going to present three different perspectives. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to introduce you to our speakers for today's session. My name is Ehsan Ali, and I'm the Career Advisor at BCP Johar Town, Lahore, Pakistan. I have won the Counselor of the Year 2020 award presented by the Education USA. I've also bagged a number of awards in public speaking, and represented Pakistan in various international competitions throughout Europe. Bringing this exposure to our school, I help learners upscale their skills with a special focus on leadership and emotional intelligence. Our first speaker for today is Ms. Aisha Khalid, Headmistress in charge, Beaconhouse College Program, Johar Town campus, Lahore, Pakistan. She is a seasoned educational practitioner and administrator for over 2 decades and holds an MPhil degree in educational leadership and management. Apart from being known for producing extraordinary results year after year, she has taken up several initiatives for the holistic personality development of students. Her leadership brought a transformational change to a challenging educational space. Our second speaker for today is Mr. Hashim Kaleem. Mr. Hashim Kaleem is a senior school teacher and a practitioner in education. He currently teaches global perspectives and research and sociology to A-level students at the Beaconhouse College Program. Hashim is passionate about innovation in pedagogical strategies with an exclusive focus on developing critical thinking skills amongst learners. He received his training in education at Harvard University, where he was a Fulbright scholar. Our third speaker for today is our student, Ms. Risham Shoaib. Ms. Risham is a grade 12 student at Beaconhouse College Program, Johar Town campus. As an active member of the peer tutoring club, she has the pleasure of interacting with various students on campus discussing key issues they face, due to which she understands the importance of peer support, not only academically, but socially as well. Having observed the immaculate changes peer support can bring, she now aims at working towards advocating peer support programs in educational institutes. So now we move on towards the questions, and we will let our speakers have a chance to answer those questions. So my first question is from our school head, Ms. Aisha Khalid. Ms. Aisha, please tell us what was the first most significant challenge that you all faced, and what was your first major response to that?
Thank you, Essen. I think as I speak now, I am reminded of the pains and sufferings we've been through in the difficult times, in the challenging times of COVID, during COVID pandemic. The teaching and learning was something that we managed. Initially, we were satisfied, we were relieved, but the hardest of all the challenges that was really challenging to meet was handling the uncertainty. From the World Health Organization to our government's National Command and Operations Center, and from the Ministry of Education to the school leaders, everyone was clueless as to how things are going to happen and what is going to be the future of education. There were a number of questions our parents and our students kept asking us. Are we going to have our mock examinations? Are we going to have our revisions done? The teachers were skeptical whether they'll be managing the teaching and learning process well. Will there be a postponement of the Cambridge examination, or are they going to be cancelled at all? So our inboxes for Twitter, for Facebook, for WhatsApp, all bombarded with messages from parents and students. And initially it was a total mess. We did not have an idea how to handle, because we were all clueless. We did not know what's going to happen next. But then we all calmed ourselves down, and we met with our teachers via Google Meet. We decided that we will definitely stay communicating with our parents' body. We'll make sure that we satisfy them, we calm them down, because it was not just us, the entire world was in the same boat. So when everybody was in pain, when everybody was suffering, so we all need to be there to support each other. We were there to help our students. We were there to talk to them one-on-one. We were there to communicate. And then we had to wait from the updates from Cambridge from time to time. Every week there was something coming up, and whenever we had a significant information, we would hold a town hall or a Google Meet or a one-on-one session, or maybe a circular or anything that we would draft and share with our parents. So with the passage of time, yeah, it was a little bit settled. And I think when finally the decision for school assessed grades came, I think most of our students were settled. And I really find it very encouraging that almost 99% of students from my school went for center assessed grades. And they were able to move on in their lives. That was something wise that they thought for themselves, and we're very happy about it, that at the end, it really went well and we were able to produce good results. So thank you.
So now that you have mentioned that you managed to keep the teaching and learning going despite all the odds, let's bring in our second speaker, Mr. Hashim Team, in this perspective, and ask how teachers were able to manage through the significant challenges that they faced during this situation.
Thank you, Essen, for that pertinent question. And I agree that we were able to move on with things really well in terms of meeting our objectives, in terms of producing a stellar grade. But really, it has been a very challenging year, and I would not hesitate in saying that it really took a village to get our students where they eventually got, right? From a teacher's perspective, I think there were several challenges, but perhaps the most significant one for me was catering to the unique and diverse set of needs that the learners in my classroom had. There's this concept that educators want to adopt in their classroom, like pedagogical strategies, which is our differentiated learning. The idea that, students have their unique strengths and weaknesses. There's a diverse set of capabilities within the classroom. And, basically implementing differentiated learning is a lot more possible, is a lot easier in an in-person setup, because at the end of the day, it's not just student responses that the only information that teachers are relying upon. We have several other pieces of information, such as the body language, such as the positionality of students within the classroom. Their entire body language often serves as cues for us so that we could identify learners who might need remedial support. Now, as you can imagine, this became a challenge in a digital setup, because students would sometimes have this option of just, shutting off their cameras, and that extra information that educators often rely upon, it wasn't there anymore. I was primarily concerned and apprehensive about the fact that is my plan, is my pedagogy really catering to the unique sets of requirements that my learners had. Now, in addition to it, there was also this other crisis, are my classes turning into a TED Talk style conversation where, I'm the only one who's giving out information and the class is not that interactive, the conversation is not that collaborative. So that was also another apprehension. But thankfully, and I would say in a timely manner, we were able to come up with specific solutions to it. So in my course in particular, I started off with this notion of exit essays, where students had to share whatever they learned in that lesson in the form of a 60-second essay towards the end of the lesson. In addition to it, I also asked my learners to rate their understanding of each lesson out of a 10. Now, you can imagine that this is like a two-way reflective exercise. It was reflection for the learners in the sense that they were able to identify particular lessons or concepts that they were not that comfortable with. So it gave them a reminder that this is something they need to go back and revise. But from my end, this also basically helped me mark students or identify students who might be needing initial support, additional support. So I think through these mechanisms, I was able to overcome some of the most significant challenges that the pandemic presented us with. Thank you so much.
It is interesting that you mentioned that it felt more like teachers giving a TED talk. So I think this is high time we bring in our student's perspective and see what was happening on the other side of the screen. So Rishabh, please tell us what were your main and significant challenges during this time, and how did you guys manage to cope up with it?
Hello everyone, my name is Risham Shoaib and I'm an A2 student at BCP Johar Town. Thank you, Sir Essen, for posing this interesting question. It was great to hear what went on the other end of the spectrum for our teachers and administration. For students, I believe that the most significant challenge we faced was learning self-discipline and sticking to a productive routine. So school environments are built around keeping students focused on learning. However, during the pandemic, we all of us shifted to our homes to study and all of us were stuck there. The problem with that was that our homes are an informal place where we have trained ourselves from a very young age to unwind and to relax. So you have all the resources to get absolutely nothing done and to laze around. So students had to relearn how to be as productive and as efficient as they were in a school classroom in a place that wasn't as well catered to learn. As a response to this issue, students turned towards setting up miniature classrooms in their own homes, and they turned to take help of the various peer support programs which offered academic and emotional support and helped them stay focused and stay motivated amidst the uncertainty. That was all from a position of a student. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isham. I think you brought up a very important aspect of this whole webinar, that is the peer support program. Because as a career advisor, we have witnessed how it has been extremely amazing for students and teachers alike. We would like Ms. Aisha to elaborate upon the structure of the peer support program and how did it help the school and the students who were there during this pandemic.
So peer support program has always been there in place way before the pandemic. And I think peer tutors were there to support students struggling with academics, and that was going quite well. However, as the pandemic came and we found out that we realized that it's not just the academic support that learners actually come to an educational institution. There are so many other elements, key elements that they look for, and one of those key elements was socialization. So that social element was actually missing, and therefore we added more structure to our peer support program, and we extended it beyond peer tutoring. We added two more categories: peer coaches and peer mentors. Peer coaches were there to help them engage in learning new skills. Wherever they were comfortable at, or maybe if they were good at music or they were good at a particular skill, they were there to support their peers in learning those skills. And peer mentors were the ones who were there to support them psychologically and emotionally, because there were students who had lost their loved ones. There were students who really found it very hard to cope with all the academic pressures. And there were students who were at times suffering from ailments, and they were suffering from COVID. So in all these challenges, these peer supporters were there to help their peers overcome these challenges and bring them back to productivity. I think that went really well. We tried to make it as fair as possible. We ensured that we invited applications from all student body. We scrutinized these applications. We checked the referrals from different teachers, different mentors and coaches that they had mentioned on their resumes. And then we made sure that once the shortlisted candidates are interviewed, rigorously interviewed and then finalized, and once they were finalized, we gave them short trainings and made sure that their performance was evaluated. So apart from the peer support the presidents of the peer support club, there were adult supervision as well. Our coordinators and our SMs were there to monitor and to evaluate their performance, and they identified different students who needed emotional support or psychological support or maybe academic support. So they were actually attached to different peer supporters, and there obviously it was gauged whether their performance was improving or not, whether there was an impact, a positive impact on these students or not. So it did work well. Not only did it foster a very trusting relationship between the peers, but we were able to get the best in the most odd times that we ever had in the history of mankind. And I think apart from that, I must clarify one thing, that it was not just that we were shunning off our responsibility of providing that emotional support to our students, but rather I think our Child Protection Committee and other team members were really very active, rather active than ever before. But I think this fostered a very trustworthy relationship, and it ensured that we can benefit from the students' experience based on the relatability. So I think this really built up a community, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have stellar results, because the way the students felt confident, only then they're able to produce the best out of their performance. So that is something that I feel very enthusiastic about, and I think my teachers were able to carry it forward, and my students did an amazing job as peer supporters. There was an army of peer supporters supporting our team, and lending an ear to a grieving fellow or a friend. So that was something which was really very appreciable. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for helping us and our viewers understand the structure of the peer support program, because it was extremely good and gave us really amazing results. So let's bring in a very important structural aspect of this peer support program and ask Mr. Hashim Kalim, our teacher, what is his views about the peer support program and how did it help the whole year and a half during this pandemic.
Thank you, Essen. I'm so glad that peer tutor support program is being discussed at a prestigious platform like this, because if you hear it from the folks at the Beaconhouse College Program, Johar Town, we are strong proponents. We are perhaps the most staunch advocates of this, because I do think that lots of credit goes to the extension and expansion of the peer tutor support program here at the BCP Johar Town. Now, I'm just going to build on what Ms. Aisha said. It wasn't just like the school shunning its responsibility of providing emotional support to students. In fact, I mean, the good thing about BCP Johar Town is that we have like a, I would say, inclusive democratic setup here where teachers' perspectives, their advice is taken into consideration. And we actually had this conversation that during the pandemic, during the digital setup, it is an added responsibility of the school to provide students with opportunities, with avenues so that they can, experience collaborative learning, that they can actually learn from the that is how, like, I'm not sure if I was audible. I think I got. Okay, am I audible now? Muting it on the back end, but I'm going to continue with what I was. Yeah, so basically, like, the idea here was that they really kind of like we learned early on that socialization is so important, right? And our learners were also able to really pick on that. So from our end, I mean, I also happen to teach in a university, and they have this midterm and end term evaluation where I found out that there was a consistent pattern. There was this unanimous kind of agreement that the highlight of learners' experience of education and learning was when they were broken down into breakout groups and they got to voice their concerns and they actually got to discuss what they learned with the other peers and actually teach them a thing or not. And it was like a eureka moment for me. If university students who are kind of, done with the online learning system and they want a break, if they like this particular aspect of being broken down into smaller groups, then this is something that we need to import to the school level as well. And I think it did wonders. So it also helped us identify that there's this conventional wisdom about, because it's an online setup, you can get as many people in it as possible. I think through this pandemic, we learned that that's probably not the right way to go about things, because we learned that especially in an online setting, the teacher to learner ratio needs to be more skewed, and there needs to be a smaller group interaction. So the peer tutor support program was instrumental in it. It helped us let learners learn from the other peers, and they're now working as TAs for my other courses. So I think lots of credit goes to the peer tutor program. Thank you.
Thank you, Hashim, for carrying on despite a technical problem and making a very good point, which leads us to our students' perspective. Mr. Shoaib has been a staunch supporter of peer support program. Let's discuss with Ms. Risham what is the most important thing and why she is a very good supporter of this peer tutor program.
Thank you, Sir Ehsan. As Ma'am Aisha pointed out, peer support programs did exist before COVID. However, I would point out that they became a much more integral part of students' lives during the pandemic. As Sir Hashim emphasized, we as students learn through socialization by exchanging ideas and opinions and observing our peers. So it's not surprising that students had a hard time adjusting academically and emotionally when this important source of learning was taken away from them while we shifted to remote learning. More and more students needed help, and for that they turned towards the peer tutoring club. I, as a peer tutor, saw a significant increase in the weekly sessions I used to take because so many students reached out for help. I think that was also because it's easier for younger people to reach out to those their own age cohort compared to a teacher. Therefore, during the pandemic, where online classes were an anomaly, students preferred to rely on their peers to guide them through their difficulties. In addition to the peer tutoring program, students also took part in other peer support initiatives, such as book clubs, online debates, study groups. These things helped emotionally as well as academically, because I think it's really comforting to talk about something when everyone relates to it and everyone is on the same page. And just seeing how others our age are coping with it motivates us too. I believe that the learning outcome from all of this for students specifically should be that peers are an effective support system. Don't undermine them and don't shy away from asking for help. And also that peer support programs should become an essential part of our academic journey. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Risham. We really hope you continue to support it and help others, teachers and students alike, to make sure that the learners continue the learning part. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the last half of our panel discussion, where we want our key speakers to give us at least one takeaway that can help them, that has been monumental according to them for our success. So let's bring in Mr. Hashim Kaleem, our teacher, first, and see what he has to say about it.
Ehsan, yeah, with the shortage of time, I'm just going to share one. So I think my key takeaway is that educators need to develop this regular practice of checking up on their students, not just in terms of the academic progress that they've made, but also on their mental well-being, especially when there's increased disconnect between the learners and the teachers. So this not only helps you foster a closer bond, but I think as educators, it's just this added responsibility that we have to be more proactive about, more so than ever before. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's hear from our student, Ms. Risham. Ms. Risham, give us one good takeaway that everybody can learn from.
Sure, sir. And so my one key takeaway from this would be specifically for students, which is to not hesitate to take initiative. Don't stop yourself from doing something which could be incredibly useful and incredibly successful by thinking what would happen if it fails. Throughout this discussion, we talked about book clubs, study groups, online competitions, plantation drives, most of which were student-led projects, which have proved to be incredibly valuable before and during COVID. We have to realize that times are changing. Innovative learners today are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Risham. Definitely, today's leaders can be tomorrow's leaders as well. And Ms. Aisha, please give us two takeaways from this whole webinar and what our viewers can learn from what we have been doing in the past year and a half.
Yeah, so the past year and a half had a great learning experience for me as a school leader. I think education in a post-COVID world, we cannot return to the world as it was before. So the post-COVID educational landscape demands a shift in the roles of parents, teachers, and students. Shift from a teaching culture to a learning culture. I think if the teachers take the responsibility of acting more like coaches and mentors, they can point students to good online lectures, videos, and then be there to provide guidance and feedback and to make connections across those topics. That would be great. And the learners need to be more responsible, a little bit self-directed, and address the learning needs on their own. And I think for the parents, it demands acceptance of blended approach to teaching and learning. At times, parents have been really disregarding what this blended approach of learning has been like. So that is one thing. And last but not the least, I think there has been a remarkable innovation in the responses of educators to the COVID crisis. Probably they are the ones most engaged with families and communities, showing the most resilience. So I think we must acknowledge our educators and encourage conditions that give these frontline educators autonomy and flexibility to act collaboratively. We must value the teaching profession and all the people who are associated with teaching collaboration. So that is one thing that I felt over these 1.5 years, that we really had to suffer a lot as educationists. And that is my takeaway for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aisha. So this brings us to our question answer session. Thank you everyone who've been posting such good comments and being very positive about this whole webinar. Let's take a question, and I think it's mostly directed towards the school head. Ms. Aisha, it says, for the initiatives your school took, how supportive was your own staff to implement these effectively?
I think it depends on the school leader. And I think if your approach is democratic and all the stakeholders are involved, they are taken care of, their opinions are valued, I think they're always there to support you. And amidst these crises, I think I feel so great that my teachers and my team was really very proactive. They were coming up with ideas, they were coming up with new things, initiatives, and we were all there together. I think we were there to implement. So I think I've been very fortunate and very lucky that I did not have any problem in implementing those ideas or those initiatives that was actually coming, and we were able to implement them well. And that's why we've been really topping, I think, in different aspects of educational arena. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's get to the next question, and I think Mr. Hashim will be able to deal with this question more effectively. Hashim, the question is, what would you do differently next year if hybrid model will continue?
Right. So I think that, the learning curve has been quite steep in the last 1.5 years, but of course, there's so much more that we can do. So just, in fact, we have tried to bring in these changes already. So if I am to teach in a hybrid model next year as well, I think before our classes start, we need to have like an orientation week of sorts, which we already do, but this time more focused on tips and strategies for our learners, how to cope with an online, like semester or an online mode of instruction. This could include different kind of, strategies for them. This could include simulations. But I would also say that in addition to just focusing on the learners, we'd also focus on some kind of pep talk, some kind of orientation for educators as well, because trust me, I know I speak on behalf of educators around the world. The burnout for teachers has been real during the pandemic. Our working hours have been blurred out. So some kind of like retreat, some kind of whole school kind of experience in which all of us share our challenges and really feel like we're not individualistically dealing with this. It's a collective experience. I think that would definitely not only motivate us, but it will directly have an impact on meeting our learning outcomes. Thank you, Esin.
Thank you, Hashim. So we have another question, and we would like our student, Ms. Risham, to answer this because she's been talking about taking up initiatives. Ms. Risham, the question says, do you think engaging students in virtual activities is easy or challenging? What would you say about that?
All right, so activities is a very vague term. If you're talking about studying activities, learning activities, I would say not so much, because students have a very easy escape, as Sir Hashim pointed out, just shutting off their cameras and microphones and choosing not to respond. So that's a very easy escape for them. However, in terms of other activities, if we talk about, well, I'll talk about the project of my own college, Misal, or any book club, that became very easy because we had students from all over Pakistan, a reach we did not have if we held it in a physical capacity, who submitted videos and chose to participate. So yes, the reach increased and it became easier for them to attend. However, as Sir Hashim pointed out, that the studying part of it, the studying activities did not become easy. So yeah, that's my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Risham. I think that makes a lot of sense. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are ending this webinar. We really hope that you were able to get few things that we have been doing from last year and a half. That includes the us time that we have with students. We have the book clubs. We have the peer support program. So there were many activities that we engaged our students in. We had teacher support, we had the support of parents for which we had to conduct sessions, and we made sure that they were on board whenever we were trying and to get onto any kind of initiatives. Although we strongly believe that there are always opportunities to improve, there are always opportunities to try more and work more, and we're very committed in doing so. So this is SNLE and Beaconhouse College Program, Johar Town campus, Lahore, Pakistan, signing off from World Education Week. We really hope that in the upcoming sessions, you get to learn more and we get to see you again sometime. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Join Time Magazine's lead education reporter alongside global educators and advocates to explore the impacts of teaching forgiveness.
I teach forgiveness because it can have a positive impact in my students' families.
It helps my students thrive in the face of adversity.
Students who can forgive are happier.
Join us to hear from teachers and thought leaders on how and why to include forgiveness in your classroom.
temperature rise will bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
New coronavirus cases emerge across the country.
Obesity rates have more than doubled in kids.
Cape Town is running out of water.